you see what's going on with HBCU football as far as the interest, as far as more kids considering, like Coach Prime at Jackson State flipping not one but two high prospects. And it's funny because when he flipped that kid from Florida State, his alma mater,
sure.
He said that that's the best interception he made in his career. I still think that's great. That he was the number one player at the time. Then they bumped it down to number 2 when he flipped the Jackson State. That's talk about petty, right? But anyway,
no, right?
We live in a world of petty, son.
It's a petty podcast. The surgeon of pettiness.
It's a petty podcast.
Yeah, but he flipped this wide receiver from Georgia, I want to say, because he saw, I forget what name, Kelvin something. I think his name is Kelvin. But anyway, the young man saw Travis Hunter flip from Florida State to Jackson State. He wanted to come. That caused him to, hey, what's Jackson State going here? Coach Prime. Everyone knows who Coach Prime is.
Right.
Of course.
Yep.
As much as other schools try to emulate that, like, for example, Grambling hired Hugh Jackson. Great hire.
Yes.
He ain't Deion Sanders.
No.
Tennessee State with Eddie George, they had a good season last year. They improved over the season. He ain't Deion Sanders. And word on the street is that I think I want to say, Dwayne, shoot this down. Am I wrong? Because you're close to this. Southern considered, I think it was Southern, considered Ed Reed.
It was Grambling that was considered.
It was Grambling. Okay, Grambling.
Yeah. So you know the players like Ed Reed's things was tossed around.
I think Marshall Faulk's name was tossed around.
Marshall Faulk's name has been tossed around. Oddly enough, we're talking about former football players, and it's ironic that we still got Dre here for this because this is going to be a name that sounds very familiar. Sam Shade is now the head coach at Miles College, Division II HBCU.
No way. Alabama.
Seriously, yes. It was announced earlier today. So Sam Shade will be the new head coach, replacing Ruffin down there at Miles College. So congratulations to him making that move from the high school ranks into the collegiate ranks. So yeah, this has been, of course, conversation about players who will be interested. Jerry Rice's name. Jerry Rice has even thrown his name out there as wanting to come out and help out in HBCU. More than likely, of course, is Jackson State. But that's what the word on the street is, and I kind of find that ironic that he won't even help out his own alma mater, or maybe they told him no. I don't know, but either way, I digress. I don't even want to get started on Jerry Rice.
That's even bigger. We want to join Prime staff.
And it's bigger, but I just find it to be laughable that he won't even go to his own school, but he'll go to the rival in the same state, just because he wants a piece. But it's just been phenomenal what Deion Sanders has been capable of doing, and very petty, right? This is another situational petty, right? It's been wonderful what Deion Sanders has been capable of doing in the past year of his tenure there at Jackson State. The wideout that you're referring to, his name is Kevin Coleman.
Kevin, not Kevin. Kevin,
yeah, Kevin. No, it's Kevin.
Oh, it's Kevin.
So
it was Kevin. Okay.
It is Kevin. Yeah, so he's been doing a wonderful job recruiting, and you know, we kind of teased this last week on what the big news was going to be from Hugh Jackson. There's been basically a lot of commits. And then, of course, they made the announcement of what Grambling's schedule is going to be for 2022. So it was a lot better than what I originally heard it was, because I was ready to clown him until I looked right before the show started and say, oh, they actually have some commits. And some of them are big, are guys who were looking to go elsewhere within the SWAC that are transfers from Power 5 institutions that are now going to Grambling because of Hugh Jackson. So that's what his announcement was. So yes, it's great that this is going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting to see whether or not it pays dividends on the field and how competitive they're going to be outside of the conference. I'm going to let Dre answer the question because I want to come back to that a little bit later on too.
Yeah.
I forgot. What was the question?
So basically,
I was just taking in information like, wow.
Okay. So basically, long story short,
back at the Bengals is now at Moss College. What is happening?
So long story short, bro, like seeing HBCU interest percolating from these kids, these blue chippers, the question was, we talked about like 2 weeks ago, because I said we talked about again last week. Again, like how sustainable is this? Now, being that Prime, Coach Prime, you know Power 5 schools are going to be called, right? Particularly Florida State. If Mike Norvell shits the bed at Florida State again in Tallahassee, I know he's signed a couple-year extension. It's very possible. Because he lost one of his quarterbacks he recruited last year is transfer. So yeah, it may be gnarly for him. So you know Florida State's gonna go to Coach Prime's door, right? That's home. Even though those fans were stupid when they burned his jersey. How the hell are you gonna burn a jersey that you bought, a vintage jersey? Well, how the hell are you gonna burn it? Why are you burning money like that?
I would never understand that.
That's just stupid.
That's first world problems right there. That's what that is.
Well, that's stupid first world problems. That's where they should burn money. But anyway, the point is, if Coach Prime ever wants to go there, whatever. I think that I don't think he needs the money. I don't, hell, he's underpaid right now at Jackson State. He doesn't need the money. I think he wants to bring more light and shine to the HBCUs. He just loves coaching. He enjoys being connected with kids.
Oh, and he wants to win. Yes.
And of course he wants to win, obviously. And he's winning right now. But not being the MEAC in the Sunshine Bush Bowl, that's not here nor there. But the fact of the matter is that Dre, do you see more blue chippers, 4 or 5 star kids considering HBCUs, and would it be in huge droves or would it be like incremental, as in Rome was built in a day kind of thing? Because I think it's going to take time.
So yeah, I believe it'll take time, but I think what will really come down to is how committed are these big name or bigger name coaches to staying, right?
You brought that up
because I'm coming to play for Prime.
Right.
How long is Prime going to be there? If Prime is there for another year, 2 years, and then jumps to a Power 5, now, no offense to Grambling and or Jackson State and or Tennessee State, like no offense to any of these schools, do I want to stay there when I know that I had offers from Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and Florida? And not only that, the coach who recruited me isn't even here anymore. Who's coming in the door behind Prime that's going to be better than Prime? Right. And so to me, it's going to take long-term commitments from these big name player coaches to really have there be some movement. So right now it's a novel, right? You got Eddie George, you got Hugh Jackson, you got Prime, you got a handful of people who have seemingly taken interest into building what HBCUs can be, from a football perspective. And the African-American community has long since talked about, hey, why are we allowing our best athletes or encouraging our best athletes to go to these, majority white schools and making money off of them instead of leaving that back in our own community and having the best players and athletes and have the money funnel this way. Right. The problem has always been, like, what's the attraction to an HBU from a top level athlete standpoint, right? Most of the time, there's not a ton of money there. Most of the time, the facilities are terrible, if existent, right? You're going to play at, again, I went to an HBCU, so I can say this, like, you're going to play at some pretty dumpy stadiums, across the board. Like, why am I doing that when I can go, hell, even Nippert is newly renovated and looks gorgeous.
It's gorgeous,
right?
Bro.
I mean, it's freaking
UC
gorgeous.
Stadium is gorgeous now. Yeah.
So, like, I can go to UC and play in a great stadium with fantastic facilities, and they're building a bubble, like all those things, right? So, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but basically, my overarching point is, how long will those top names stay, and really how committed are they to building those programs and building that culture and building something that's sustainable? Because kids come and go all the time. Right. You need to be that constant. I mean, look at Luke Fickell at Cincinnati, right?
Mhm.
Where coaches come for 3 years, 2 years, and then bail. And then the players kind of shift around. And then, okay, another coach gets here for 3 years and then bails. Luke Fickell's been around, 5, 6 years, and it looks and appears that he's going to be on for several more years to come. And now he's genuinely building that program. Is Prime willing to stay at Jackson State for 10 years, right?
Right.
Is
And-
Eddie George willing to stay at Tennessee for 7 years to
Right. Hugh Jackson.
really get that program to where it needs to be? Or will Hugh Jackson jump at the first opportunity to be an offensive coordinator again in the NFL, and that whole falls back apart?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but to your point about the facilities, there are certain institutions who have most definitely made some strides with their facilities. All HBCU facilities aren't bad facilities. Prairie View A&M has a wonderful facility. Alabama State has a wonderful facility. There are other programs, Jackson State, North Carolina A&T, who are currently in Florida A&M, who are currently in the process of working what they currently have. So the institutions that are willing to make investments, Texas Southern has a nice football stadium. So the schools who are interested in willing to make investments into their programs are doing so. It's, again, like I've discussed many times on this show, it's about the sustainability and what the alums are capable of doing if they're willing to do their part to make sure that these institutions are capable to compete. Because, of course, let's be real, of the only schools that can compete with a Power 5 program is another Power 5 program. Right.
We're not expecting
now,
that. Right.
Yeah, right. But so our thing is, we're going to want our programs to at least compete with the other programs that are at least on the FCS level. So you're talking about your Sam Houston States. You're talking about
North Dakota State.
Most definitely North Dakota State.
Yeah.
You're talking about JMU, who was capable of making a leap upward. You're talking about Liberty, who was capable of making that move upward to the FBS as well. So you're looking to see Campbell, who has a brand new facility in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. You want to compete with them. And of course, they're getting the money from the organizations and from their alums to make sure that they're at that point. We're going to have to go ahead and make sure that our alums get interested and become boosters that they need to become in order for them to continue to not just keep the talent that's currently there, but to continue to draw the great talent that we hope to have come in under these coaches that we currently have. So that's where that comes in.
Let's put it this way, fellas. This is not a slight, this is just stating facts. If Boise State were to complete that goal and complete the journey from FCS to where they're now in the Mountain West, if you have freaking Coastal Carolina, who hasn't been around for a hot minute, go from FCS to where they're at in the Sun Belt and dominate. Ball out. Same with Appalachian State, near where I grew up. Make the same jump from FCS to the Sun Belt and ball the hell out.
Kennesaw State that's had a program that's resurgent in the past 2 years.
Then if we look at them, why the hell we can't do that in the SWAC or in the MEAC? Why can't we do that?
So some of this goes to, and I don't want to get uber philosophical all that, but like some of this goes just back to America and generational wealth, right?
Yeah.
We as African American people don't have a ton of generational wealth. Whereas you're
many reasons.
Right. I mean, like we're not the Kraft families of the world.
No.
We're not, the Fords. We're not, all folks like
DuPonts.
Rockefellers.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not those folks. Those folks went to, Ohio State. Those folks went to,
Ivy Leagues.
Penn State, Ivy League schools, Stanford, all of those places. And that's where there's a ton of money that gets pumped into those places. And even a place like Liberty is still a majority white school. And so therefore, like, they have that money.
Flush with cash. They're flush with cash.
That's like Jerry Falwell money, most definitely.
Yes. And so that's the biggest issue is, and I didn't mean to shit on HBCUs and the facilities that they have. There are schools that have those facilities. Not all do. Every Power 5 school has fantastic. Every Power 5 school has fantastic. And that was more my point. Yes, you do have some who have great facilities. You also have some that really don't.
Yeah.
Power 5 schools, everybody has great facilities.
Yeah.
So part of it, again, is just from an American culture standpoint, we're not coming with the same amount of wealth to help build all of these programs across the board.
Right.
True, right? And that's where it has to be a situation where our institutions have to be smarter and not necessarily work harder. When you talk about the generational wealth that we lack, then that means, just like Liberty, who, of course, yes, they get a ton of money from Jerry Falwell, but there have been a ton of organizations that was willing to donate money to Liberty University for them to have that windfall of cash for them to be capable of what they're doing. Yep. And that's all across the board. And for that university to be the way that it's sprawling through Lynchburg, the way that it is insane. So yeah, you got to be smart and get these corporations who are willing to give money to HBCU to do so. And that's the thing. You got to find the ones that are willing to do so and make it so that these companies are willing to make that investment in our athletics programs. That's another thing that has to be done too.
Well said. Well said. So Dre, keep going, Dre. Dwayne, do you have any more news HBCUs to bless us with? You've been on, you were sprinkling stuff in here and there with coaching hires and whatnot, which obviously we didn't know, but what else do you have to share with us?
Sam Shade.
Freaking Shade.
That was my response too, right? I'm like, Sam Shade. Wow, we got another one. So, that's why I always say when people's reaction is we need to hire football players to come. One, they've always been former football players that have been HBCU coaches in the past. That is not the problem.
Right.
We got to go in. There's no one on this earth that's the level of Deion Sanders in sports as a whole. It's like a handful. That's like Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and my God, that's probably about it. But I digress. That's another conversation for another time. You're hoping for another Deion. You're hoping for another unicorn to walk through the door. That unicorn ain't coming.
Yeah.
News real quick. And then, you know what? I actually have an apology to make too. So I'll get to that too. So number one, the news is it's of course, even though the smaller ones have been happening in previous weeks, the Tropical Bowl, which of course is another one of the collegiate bowl games where guys come out to work out in front of coaches. The same thing with the Spirit of America HBCU Bowl. I don't know if it necessarily happened this past weekend or not because of the weather in Roanoke, but you had that, and then the Dream Bowl as well. But the more prominent bowl games are coming up starting this weekend with the NFL Players Association Collegiate Bowl, and you got a couple of HBCU players that are going to be participating in that. More prominently, Marquise Bell of Florida A&M, the defensive back that a lot of people have been talking about. Akil Glass from Alabama A&M,
quarterback.
And well, yes, and of course the wide receiver from Sam Houston State, Jaquez Ezzard, who was actually a Howard alum before transferring and winning a national title over there at Sam Houston State, will be participating in this game as well. So I will have the full list of HBCU athletes that will be participating in that game and the other bowl games as well on my social media. And of course, I'm going to write a short article about it too. But the other thing, the more prominent thing that's happening this weekend is, of course, the Reese's Senior Bowl will be having their HBCU Combine this weekend as well. Cool. They have over 40 players that's going to participate. And I actually agree with Deion Sanders, who has actually been an advocate for having an HBCU Combine before in the past, to say, hey, why have the HBCU Combine when you could just go ahead and add those 5 or 6 players per position to go to Indianapolis and work out there, knowing you have guys that end up dropping out of your invitation from the NFL Combine anyway, so they can participate on their own personal pro day. Why not just do that? Duh. But you know, if we're gonna take baby steps, fine. We're gonna take these baby steps. So I think the NFL Network will be airing this combine this weekend. And both of these games, well, the game and the combine, I think will be airing on TV. I will make sure to have all that information on social media. And then, of course, you got players from the HBCUs that will be participating in the Shrine Bowl and in the Senior Bowl as well. So I'll have that full list of everybody who's going to be participating where and who to keep an eye out for where in all of my outlets. And then, of course, like I said, with Sam Shade, we did talk about the Grambling announcement. So big up to Hugh Jackson for not dropping the ball on that. But since we're talking about Grambling,
Got
we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
You know, let me go ahead and first and foremost, this is going to be a backhanded apology. Right?
It's already backhanded with the setup.
Yeah, right. So like Scott has said and will continue to say, we love